Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is happening in the stars above. And it's Friday, so we have the entire weekend's worth of astrology to talk about. And it is literally a powder keg that we are sitting on today and tomorrow and Sunday. And I just want to take this moment to say, hold on, guys, totally forgot to mute that. I just want to take this time to say that this is going to be a weekend where we need to call upon all of our faculties for peace and serenity, meditation, all of the prayer, all of the things that we know of, love, that can help us to get through this particular weekend. Today is the full moon, of course, and the full moon is a lunar eclipse. So we have a lot of energy here because of that particular transit. And as well, if we take a look at the weekend in general, we have today Mercury in a sextile to Uranus, which is in a square to Chiron. And I'm going to show this to you guys in a little bit here. We have the Venus Gestation Day, which is a day where we really begin to plant the seeds of what we want for the future. We also have Saturday where the sun is squaring Mars, and that happens to be a day that has a lot of demonstrations and protests planned in the nation's capital. And to me, that just spells danger and problems. Sunday, of course, the lesser of the 3 days, perhaps, where we get an opportunity maybe to recharge our batteries, to heal, but it is also a day that has the potential for confrontation. So we'll want to break these days down. I hope you're all feeling well this morning, and let's say good morning to Tom. Hello, Tom. Debbie Tibbetts. Tumiel, good morning. And yes, I'll take a card. If we get there, Debbie, definitely you will be able to have that. Anna Fulton, good morning. J-Lo, good morning. Mimi, good morning. Amanda, good morning. Augustina, good morning. It's great to see all of you checking in. So, of course, today, the main event, the full moon lunar eclipse, is just about 4 hours away at the moment. Here on the West Coast, that occurs at 12:13 p.m. And along with that, and just before that, actually, the moon is going to be very busy in an opposition to Venus and in a square to Mars and also a square to Neptune. And I swear it has got to be Neptune that will be our saving grace for this weekend. At 9:11 this evening, the moon will go into the void, and it will be there until 12:45 p.m. tomorrow. West Coast time, when it moves into the sign of Capricorn. And of course, we already know Capricorn is the sign ruled by Saturn, and that is where our authority figures are. That is the sign that rules the government, and it rules the military, and it rules any of the big institutions that we have. So that chilled me a bit as well, because with the moon in Capricorn, we also end up with the possibility of that sun square Mars creating some military action on people who I know happen to be thinking of a demonstration in front of the Capitol on Saturday, excuse me. So crazy making day, crazy making Saturday, and hopefully Sunday is a day where we can recoup our energy. Anna says, can you summarize the star Chiron like in keywords? Healing, the wounded healer. So Chiron, which is a dwarf planet or an asteroid, or more appropriately, we call it a centaur. It is the representation of how we can use alternative means and methods to heal, and that the wound, even though it's painful, and likely never leaves us, we are always able to work with the pain. That suffering ends up being a choice and not something that we have to experience. So I hope that helps there, Anna. And Tom says, thank you for all the birthday greetings. You're very welcome, Tom. Jennifer Peachy, good morning. Kamal, great to see you. Asa, good morning, sweetie. Great to see you as well. Amy, good morning. Everybody checking in with us right now. So let's go and start to break down the the astrology of the day. So we still have the moon in Sagittarius in an opposition to Venus, and that is one of the Venus in retrograde. And that is the one main indicator that we have, besides the fact that there's a lunar eclipse occurring, that there's something of major importance moving through the collective, and that there is something big afoot in terms of how we will come together as a people and how we will come together as a society, and our demands as people to follow along stated values, to live according to those values. Now, the interesting part today is that full moon lunar eclipse, which, as I've shared all week long, different tidbits about this eclipse, isn't happening in a vacuum. So these are events that have been triggered likely even more than a week ago and come to that crescendo point today, but will not be leaving us for the next several days. And on top of that, eclipses have a tendency to have echoes. And every time another planet will pass by this particular degree, which is 15 degrees of Gemini and Sagittarius. So as a planet passes by 15 degrees Sagittarius in particular, because that's where the moon is sitting, then we have maybe some upheavals or some reimagination of the same energies that popped up with the eclipse. So we don't eclipses, like I said, they don't necessarily record one event. They tend to, have this scope of energy, almost like a sine wave where you have this bump going and then it wanes and then it comes back up and you have another bump. And that is how all eclipses operate, by the way, not just this one. This one doesn't have a very long periodicity, meaning it's not going to affect us for years and years. But I think that's why things are a little more intense at the moment, because it seems to be coming to a higher peak, perhaps, and then a lower low as well. And of course, the eclipse, with it being the sun and earth in opposition squaring Mars, anytime we have the sun squaring Mars or the moon squaring Mars, we have emotional upset. We have maybe even demonstrations, protests. We have the possibility for some kind of aggression, some kind of assertiveness, some kind of conflict going on in that outer world. And it just seems to be a little bit more exploded at the moment. As well, today, there is something that I want to share with you about the full moon lunar eclipse, because it's between, remember, the eclipses are driven by where the nodes are. And the north node of the moon right now is sitting at 29 degrees Gemini, and the south node is sitting at 29 degrees of Sagittarius. And the nodes back their way into a sign. So they start at the end of the sign and then they move toward the 0 degree mark over the 18 months or so that they sit in that particular axis. So the axis here is prompting us to find balance between the Gemini and the Sagittarius parts of ourselves. And wherever that Gemini Sagittarius house is in your chart, houses are in your chart, is where that you're being asked to seek that balance. And the turbulence, the turmoil, the chaos that leads us now to, it's very obvious that there's this kind of craziness going on, is presumably leading us to a new awareness where we can perhaps be prompted to take new action. And as we've been talking about for months, the planet Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn have all been sitting at various times at the gate 61, whose shadow is psychosis. And doesn't it begin to, dawn on you that it's a little psychotic the way things have been going on, the things people say, the things people do, the reactionary energy. And do you think that's getting better? I'm not sure, because we're still trying to solve the same problems, or we're trying to solve the problems in the same way we've always tried them, and not looking at new ways of doing things. So our awareness, I'm hoping that it will dawn on people including from the highest, the president, all the way down through his cabinet and all the way down through all of the people in Congress and down all the way through the people, we, the people, that we have to do something. We have to do something new, that the past is haunting us at this point in time. And that everything that we do at this moment that is related to what we've done in the past is doomed to fail, is doomed to blow up in our faces. So it is time for us to look to the future by clearing the past. And it was interesting to me because Marianne Williamson is probably the first person that I ever heard. She may have been the first person in the US to talk about reparations for the past injustices to the people that have been harmed. So the Black community or the African American community, whatever is the PC way to speak about that. And that is something I started hearing out in the world yesterday in various speeches and things that were being given by different people in different positions throughout the country, throughout the world even. And talking about reparations, that very act helps us clear the past so that we're not being shadowed by that or doomed to follow the same steps, because we're actually doing something to clear it, right? To clear that past. And then we can move on. We can look to the future now. Remember, a lot of the theme for 2020 has been this idea of the two-headed god, right? The one that's facing forward, Janus, and the one that's facing backwards, that is represented more by Kronos. So we have Saturn in both of those positions, right? In Aquarius looking to the future, and in Capricorn looking to the past. So, and then that could also spill over into this idea of the Aquarian age and creating, ingenious ways, unique ways of solving our problems, right? Or coming together to clear that past. So it's part of this full moon lunar eclipse for us to see the past very clearly displayed on our screens, right? As I was blow drying my hair this morning, I thought, didn't we clear all of this in the 60s? I mean, wasn't the whole civil rights movement about making sure we never had this issue come up again? And apparently we didn't clear it enough, right? Or we sent it underground. And so we still have this consciousness on the planet of separation, of segregation, of non-inclusivity. And we have to be able to heal that. So here's our opportunity, right? A full moon lunar eclipse. It is a lunar eclipse. It's time to complete. It's time to release. It's time to let go. It's time to have a revelation. And let's hope that that revelation doesn't have to come through a civil war. Let's hope that we can have this revolution peacefully, consciously, with a lot of awareness. So I'm pleading with all of you who hear this recording, all of you who are live with us today, to come to your senses, to come to a peaceful place, to pray peace, to pray for everybody involved here, as this weekend is likely going to be a bruiser. And we'll look back at this weekend likely as a turning point. But which way do we turn? Do we turn more toward the past, or do we turn and look to a brighter future, a more inclusive future? So our choice, right? That's the thing now. We're the co-creators of this reality. We have the opportunity to turn that corner, to look to that future with that brightness. All right. The other aspects happening today, in particular, is Mercury in a sextile to Uranus. A sextile is a 60-degree angle, and that implies that the energy is moving smoothly between the two signs. Mercury, communication; Uranus, surprises or awakening. So communication, awakening. Maybe new talks, maybe new way, maybe for once somebody will step up to the plate as a leader, right? Somebody with a voice of calm, with a voice of inclusivity, with a voice of love that can bring us together instead of continuing the separation, the void between us. Today is a day to tackle the old problems with new ideas, with new voices, right? That's my hope, that anyone, it might be the most unlikely person, a Gandhi type person that steps up and adds an element of spontaneity here, an element of the unpredictable that that can, really propel us in a new direction. But can that unpredictable, can that spontaneity also be the flashpoint to something very ugly? Because also Chiron is involved here. And Chiron is the wounded healer. So to answer your question, I can't remember who asked that question now. Chiron has a lot to do with the wounding and the healing process. And I believe we've already come at the wound. We know the wound. We know the wound is separation. We know the wound is looking at people with unequal eyes instead of, embracing everything as a part of the human family. We've categorized and put into boxes the different people and the different things that, make us different instead of valuing the differences. We've sort of, marginalized certain folks into certain boxes. And maybe this is a time for us to bring unity back. Maybe this is a time for us to bring oneness, to remember oneness, to do the healing part of this, right? The healing part of this. We might have fired up communication in this way. We have the possibility, again, of the voices raised in peace instead of voices raised in anger. But we still have those secretive things that are going on where, people are being paid to come in and, create an insurrection. And of course, none of that is right. None of that is good. And none of that is the correct use of this energy. But like anything else, it does shake up the pot. It does awaken us. But let's not play into that, right? Let's not add our ugliness to that. Let's add our love to that. Let's add our peace to that. Let's add our serenity to that. As if today's energy isn't enough, we also have Venus entering a new part of her cycle, her retrograde cycle. Today, she moves into what is called the gestation period. So if we think of the 2 days ago, let's see, it was June 3rd, I believe, or June 2nd, the inception, right, where the seed was planted. And then today is gestation. And for the next 4.5 to 5 days, we are in this period of gestating a new theme, a new energy, a new idea. And the theme, literally, for this new idea is about a new feminine intention, right? What does the feminine do? It builds cooperation, it builds collaboration. And this is raw energy right now that's coalescing into a movement, perhaps, into a single voice, a louder voice. This is where the invisible is made visible. We start to see the effect of the growing idea or the growing fetus. If this was, conception instead of inception, then gestation would be where we start to see the bump. We start to see that there's growth going on. It becomes more visible to the public, and it is more energy that is released into the world, the voices getting louder, perhaps. And how do we express and heal this in the most appropriate way, right? In the most peaceful way? How do we really live from our values? This is the first push that we'll see of change in those values, or I'm not sure that the values change so much as we really begin to embody them and live from them as opposed to just paying lip service to them. And this is going to dominate the next cycle of Venus, which is likely an 18 to 24 month cycle of building toward this more collaborative, this more peaceful, this more inclusive, this more feminine energy. Remember, in your human design chart, we talk about this a lot, about how the left side that connects to the spleen, so the connection from the sacral to the spleen, that is tribal energy. The gates involved in that tribal energy are about laying down the values. These are the commands, if you will, that come from the divine feminine about how we care for one another, how we nurture our young, how we educate our young, how we feed our young, how we heal them, how we take care of our young as well as our elders, as well as our people in general, and how we take care of the planet and all of the wildlife and all of the trees and the plants and the grasses, the water, the air. This is very nurturing energy. And when the nurturing, when the rules are being broken, it is also the divine feminine that lays down the consequences of that. That these are the consequences. And are we suffering through the consequences right now of not having lived up to our values, to our core values, to our core values? And how do we change to be able to live more in accordance with that divine feminine? And I think in a very large way, it is going to be the voices of women that need to rise up here. Black women, white women, Native American women, grandmothers, young women, middle-aged women, all of you, all of us need to rise. And men, what you can do is really connect to the feminine part of who you are, the part of you that knows about what the values are. In human design, the masculine side is the protective side. The masculine side is the one that takes the values, that makes sure that those values are protected, that those laws are enacted correctly and accordingly to the way the values of the tribe, the community, the nation, the world have been laid out. So the masculine supports that and protects that and defends that at all costs, right? That's the divine masculine, and the other is the divine feminine. And at this moment, we are bringing those two great energies into balance and harmony. Why do you think we have a Gemini as a sign where both the eclipse is happening in across that axis, and we have our north node moving us through a sign of duality where we're healing that breach, right? We're healing that breach. We're bringing them together to be in their right and perfect places, right? Doing their right and perfect work without apology, right? And this isn't about man and woman so much as it is the bigger, it's not the gender of it, it's the energy of it. And making sure that we're expressing that energy in its appropriate way. And trusting that there's a higher power that is guiding all of this. And that even though it seems chaotic and turbulent and turmoil-ish at the moment, that this too shall pass. Okay, now that's today. That's just today. Let's see what people are saying out here. So we have astrology is fascinating, isn't it? Amanda says, I've been shocked at the parallels happening now. Yep, exactly. Mimi, I am feeling more exposure to that which needs to change, indeed. Anna says, when you write Black people, use a capital B. That helps a lot. So not Black people, but Black people. Camilla, my son is at the same degree as the North Node. You're embodying all of this duality and this polarity and this change. It's all happening in your own personal life as well. And Anna, I read magical things about 29 degrees in a chart. Indeed, the 29th degree is karmic. And it almost feels like a little bit right now like a karmic calling card, right? This is the time for us to finish something in order to move on into a more golden age, right? A golden age of peace. Venus and Sun are in conjunction with my Venus and Mercury house 2. Of course, you're going to survive the eclipse, Camilla. None of that is about death. None of what you've just written there is about death. In fact, it's about a new time of living in accordance to your values. And, there is always, every day is a death and a rebirth. Every day, some of your cells are dying and new ones are replacing it. Every day, a part of everything is dying and renewing. So there's no need to be afraid. Survival is ensured, right? Even if you identify with the body, sure, of course, at some point the body is going to die. But if you identify with the soul or with the spirit, there is no part of it that can be destroyed. It is pure energy, and energy can neither be destroyed. It cannot be destroyed because it can only be transformed. That's one of the thermodynamic laws, the laws of physics. So Venus and Mercury in house 2 will say maybe you're going to be speaking to values. Maybe you're going to have a voice that's writing or artistically expressing the values of speaking from beauty, speaking from a mind that's bent on beauty and not on ugliness and hatred. So lots of potential there, lots of potential. Okay, what else? Amanda, my grandmother would call me Minnie, so I smile, and yes, these things need to be seen. J-Lo, I just hope they can feel into the peace before anything gets worse. Anna, oh my, this is what my girls and I are, what I passed that one, talking about. I love, yes, the matriarchal movement. I hear it from all directions. It's indeed, right? Women coming together, but also men and women and men. I mean, it's like I said, it defies gender. This is really energy. But I think the feminine, in the guise of feminine women in this country, we have been very hesitant, I think, to jump in and to let our voices be heard, to really demonstrate the beauty of the matriarchy, the beauty of taking care of one another, of nurturing energy, and not anymore. Yes, the strength of the divine feminine. Mimi says, Kamal, Anna, this is called quantum physics. We are here for a reason. I love that indeed. And preach, Anna says, J-Lo says, or a tree, anything. All of this is so fascinating, isn't it? All right, so all of what we were just speaking of was just today. That was all just today. And by the way, the Pleiadian-Earth energy for today is a 10 listening Akbal in the Mayan calendar, which was a representation of the night, of the void, of the divine feminine, right? It is the divine feminine that lives in the void, that lives in the creative energy of the dark, if you will. And the 10 is the energy of manifestation. And what we're seeing manifested in the world is the result of our thinking, of our wrong thinking, if it's the more negative, of our right thinking, if it's the more positive. So a day like today really gives us access to listening from a deeper place, from a higher consciousness, from the spiritual part of your beingness, and not just listening to the loud voices of, you know, people that want to be disruptors, or of the angry part of all of this energy. And I'm not saying that anger isn't appropriate here, but I am saying that if we continue to react against that in that kind of an angry voice, we are not getting anywhere, right? We're going to have to rise above it. We're going to have to swallow some pride. We're going to, what were all the shadows I wrote for this week, for this weekend? Dominance, pride, indifference, and psychosis. These are all the shadow energies of just this freaking weekend, right? So how do we rise above those things? Well, we have to really listen to a deeper voice, to a place within us that rises above the human ego. So that is our day today, 10 listening to the higher power, listening to a higher voice. And tomorrow, actually, you know what? I wanted to do something. I'm going to quickly show you. Oops, hold on. I got to get to it. I want to show you the chart for today and do something that I almost always mess up, but I'm going to do it anyway, is annotate this chart, because I think it's really interesting to show you what is happening. So I'm going to show you first on my chart here. See these lines? I've got all these lines. I'm going to attempt to draw these in your face so you can actually see them. So we were talking about Mercury in a sextile to Uranus, and then Mercury also in a square to Chiron. So here's our planet Mercury right here. Ooh, and if I do this slowly, I might be able to do that. And here is our planet Uranus. Note they're both at 8 degrees. And here's our planet Chiron, also at 8 degrees. And when we're talking about these aspects like sextiles and squares, we're talking about the relationship between these bodies. So we have a square. Look at me go, right? You can see that comes out to be a square, a 90-degree angle here between Chiron and Mercury. So we have some challenges to overcome, to heal. And we know that we still have this wound of separation and of inequality, because we're seeing it in our outer world. We're seeing the anger and the upset and the brutality wrought by people of power upon people that should have been given the same equality as any other person. So here we see that challenge, and the challenge for us to heal it because Chiron is involved. Then we can see the sextile. The sextile is right here between Mercury, and a sextile always looks like an asterisk in an astrology grid. So if I don't want to bring that up right now, but this between Mercury and Uranus is a positive relationship of where each of them draw upon the gifts and talents of the other for expression. So Uranus being able to speak from an awakening voice or from a voice that really catches people's attention. Mercury in Cancer bringing a message of nurturing, of love, of family, of bringing us together right here. And then we have then Uranus and Chiron also in a relationship. This one is called a semi-sextile. It looks like a K laying on its back. And that relationship is a little more difficult because they're in neighboring signs. So Chiron is in Aries, a sign ruled by Mars. That makes it very action-oriented. And then Uranus in Taurus, which has a financial aspect, a spin, as well as our values, all in Taurus right here. So these two are a little bit more harsh toward one another than the Uranus-Mercury connection. So we have that. Now let me see if I can change colors here. Yes, I can. Now for the eclipse itself this afternoon, here is where the sun is at 15 degrees. God, I'm getting much better at controlling this. Here's our moon right now, or at the moment I drew up the chart this morning, was at 12:22. Here's our 15-degree mark though. That puts the sun and moon in an opposition to one another. And look who's over here at 15 degrees. Mars in Pisces. A lot of steam being added to this engine right here because Mars is action, aggression, assertion, and he's in a water sign. So we have fire and water that create steam. Steam can burn or steam can be the fuel for change. And they are in a very tight square during the eclipse today. That scares me, but it also gives me hope. And if you'll look, this creates a T-square, what we call a T-square, because you see the T, it's sort of upside down here. That means that there's an empty section, and that empty section is over here in the sign of Virgo. And so Virgo's practical, down to earth, healing energy is being called into play here. We are also pulling in sometimes the more negative display of the opposing sign. And that would bring in victim energy. That brings in martyr energy. So we have to rise above the victim energy and go right into the healing energy. So we want to move beyond those old wounds. That is what we see in the diagram here. And I love it when we can see it like that. You know, it's so blatant in our faces, and that's all happening right now where we sit today. And of course, that energy is never in a vacuum. So it's been sort of coming into play over the last couple of days. And of course, it will be with us for the next couple of days. So there we have it. Now, tomorrow brings us the energy of 11 planting in our Pleiadian-Earth energy, Khan, in the Mayan calendar, which is about planting seeds. The 11 is about illumination, about light, planting seeds of light. Excuse me. So we may have people out there tomorrow who are planting these seeds of light. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's all of us together who in behind the scenes, even though we might not be, marching on Washington, D.C., can hold space for the light, can become the embodiment of this light. And the major astrological configuration tomorrow is the Sun square Mars. It comes into exact tomorrow. And these are I'm going to go with the scary stuff first, because this is taken from Planets in Transit by Robert Hand. You can see I've used this book. I've had my husband to recover this book. It's too funny. But that book, if you can find it anymore, gives you kind of the the depth of every transit imaginable, at least with the 9 planets, Pluto included. The Sun square Mars represents ego conflicts. Well, we see that pretty blatantly, I think. No need to ask more about that. This is a transit that tests the validity of a stance we've taken. So how valid is the movement, right? That kind of thing. We're challenged by authority during this period of time. There's an irritability, an anger, an impatience, an aggression that is running, an assertiveness, a belligerence, you name the word, that is like that, that's running underneath the surface here. It's a square, so it's a challenge. So we all this weekend need to take care with conflicts and confrontation. Expect hostile action, right, in response to hostile action. So when we have peaceful protesters and some, people in their midst who secretly have a different agenda, you can expect that there is the possibility that we have a powder keg that we're sitting on with the match being lit, and right, the potential for hostile action. The moon tomorrow afternoon will move into Capricorn, which is a sign of the government, a sign that represents the military, that represents all of our institutions. So I'm glad that the Sun square Mars doesn't happen later in the moon's transit through Capricorn when it's, hitting up Jupiter and Pluto. But still, right, there's this energy in Capricorn when the moon's moving through there, the emotional reaction that happens from big institutions when they react negatively against people. And the moon represents the public, the people in this kind of case. And Capricorn represents the government or the military or those institutions. I don't know. To me, that just gives me chills. But what can we do about it? Again, we have power here because we, even from our limited perspective of home, not being a part of any kind of conflagration, physically, we can tune in to our spiritual side. We can pray peace. We can pray. We can meditate on a common theme of love, of meditation on peace, of harmony, and of an energy that can balance out this conflict and hopefully have cooler heads prevail. Sunday's energy. And I know that sounds like I just played, a short shrifted Saturday, but I think we've already been talking a lot about that. And I want to be able to do some readings today. So I'm going to go back here real quick, see if you guys have questions about something that I didn't cover yet. Virgo equals service. Exactly. Anna, rise above. J-Lo, Venus, her Venus is at 11 degrees in the 12th. So I can assume it affects me on a personal level also. I don't think there's anybody out there who this doesn't affect. You can pretend it doesn't affect you if you don't have planets in that degree of that sign, but you're a human being on this planet at this moment in time. You came here for a reason, to participate in this transformation that's occurring. And whether it's shown in your sign as something personal that you're meant to do or not, you're here and you're here with a mission. And I think that mission is evidenced through this change to incorporate the divine feminine more fully, to balance and harmonize the energies on the planet, to pray peace, to pray love. That I think everybody has that as a purpose, whether it's in your chart or not as a personal mission. It's a human mission at this point in time. Amanda, thank you for showing that in that way. Yeah, I like the visuals of the charts and being able to see what that means. So it sinks in better when you see it. I know it does. And I think we've been together long enough and talked about things that maybe you can understand it better in a way that maybe a few months ago you didn't understand it. So I'm comfortable sharing the charts like that. So thank you for letting me know that. And by the way, this is your opportunity to put a thumbs up there if you like the video, if you like the work that's going on here, and to subscribe if you're new here and haven't yet subscribed. Also, there's a share button. Did you know that under every YouTube video that you can click on, and you can share this video with your friends and your family or people that you think would be um, interested in this kind of work. J-Lo, I'm going to have my kids meditate with me at 1:40 to 1:50 as the transit happens in my time at 1:46 p.m. Lovely, wonderful, perfect. Sitting in a place of peace while the most lightning fast energy is at play. Perfect. I'm going to be on the road tomorrow during that period of time, and you can bet that I'm going to be moving peace from my little place here down the corridor, I-5 down to Oregon, and then sending that light and that love energy out to the capitals of all the nation, of all the countries, of all the states, and praying peace for calmer, cooler heads to prevail for tomorrow. Gratitude to you as well, Augustina. Okay, now let's do something for Sunday real quick and then get into some readings. I didn't even get a chance yesterday. I don't even know what has been keeping me busy, but so much has been keeping me busy. So I didn't really get to look much yesterday at my Galactic Heritage cards, but I want to play with these today. So I've mixed them up. I've infused them with love and wisdom and compassion, and hopefully we'll get some good readings from those cards today. So Sunday, Moon in Capricorn, trining Uranus. Yay. Expressions of awakening, maybe something so positive, sparkling and new in the way that the government reacts. I mean, in my highest dream, the military refuses to do what the powers that be might want them to do, and that the military recognizes that we need change, and that even the federal level government, the president himself, goes to bed tonight and has an awakening somehow tomorrow and comes to the table with a message of peace, with a message of togetherness. In my Pollyanna world, that's what happens. There's also an opposition on Sunday to the planet Mercury, and that also gives us the potential for possibilities of new conversation, right? Of looking into a different line of talking. There's a sextile to Mars. So out of the craziness of the of the square, we end up in a sextile with the moon in Capricorn in a sextile to Mars. Cooler heads prevailing. We still have those shadow energies, though, to deal with as they are dawning on Sunday, and that is dominance, pride, indifference, and psychosis. Jupiter in retrograde, moving backwards to join Pluto at that gate of psychosis. But from a retrograde point of view, that means that maybe there's this powerful change that is going to ripple through our inner beings, a very DNA change. And I would even maybe visualize your DNA and your DNA being able to embody more and more light. And from that space of light, we can move to the gift levels in these very same places. And the gift level with the sun at gate 45, at least that's the sun gate on Sunday, and we'll talk more about that next week. Synergy, being able to work together energy. The earth at gate 26, pride in the shadow, becomes artfulness in the gift. Venus at gate 16 is enthusiasm rather than indifference. Jupiter at gate 61 is inspiration, being inspirited. If we could just move to the next level, out of those shadows, just one step into them, and we adopt a whole new kind of energy for the time moving forward. The Pleiadian-Earth energy that day is on 12 moving, 12 being the energy of understanding. And moving energy, Chichon being the snake energy in the Mayan calendar, the snake that wraps around the pole with another snake to form the caduceus, which we think of as healing energy. So change, healing, exploring new ways of being on Sunday. Avoid confrontation, avoiding blame, right? No one person is to blame. We might want to throw it all out there at the president or whomever else, but there isn't any blame, right? When you do that, you hold us to the old pattern. So blame, let go of blame, let go of competition, let go of confrontation. Let's confront each other with love and grace and peace and harmony, balance, equality. Okay, getting off my high horse here. Angela, good morning. She says, hi, everyone. Amy says, it could happen. The orange one has a lot going on in his chart right now. Indeed, he does, including his birthday coming up, which a solar return, the possibility for a new beginning. Asa, I am sharing and saving this program today. This is so meaningful to me, being a woman of color, married to a Caucasian man. Indeed. J-Lo, OMG, no way. I was just explaining the DNA strand to my 16-year-old of meditation I did 2 years back, and actually seen it while in the meditation. This is why I feel like, and I said this 2 years ago maybe, that I thought that the human template as it's evolving, instead of we're coming out of Homo sapiens, which is all about the mind, sapiens knowing, into Homo luminous. That's what I've called it. I know other people call it other things, but I think Homo luminous, where we're actually embodying the light, and the light shines out from us more than just from our eyes, right? When you look into people's eyes, you see that light in them. But I'm saying this coming from our skin, coming from every part of our body, the light shining out from us. Asa, the energies coming up to be looked at and hopefully worked out is so past due. So true. We need to realize we are all part of the same race, the human one, indeed. For me, it is so hard for me to believe. And I know it's happening. I know it because I can see it on television. I can see it on my phone that there's this craziness. But to me, I've never looked at people's skin color and thought about how that makes them inferior or superior, or anything like that. I just don't get that. I don't get it. I know it's a part of the lesson here on planet Earth, but we all bleed the same color. We all have the same organs inside. No matter what the color of the skin, it's still skin. It still does the same job. It has a brain, there are eyes, there's a heart, there's love. We have common values. We love our children. We want to feed our children. We want to do well in the world. We want to succeed. We want to thrive. How does the color of the skin change any of that? It just doesn't. It doesn't. And I don't get that. But that's why we have to have this conversation. That is why we have to bring this up, and we have to greet it with new eyes, with a new heart, a new open heart, so that we can actually have done with this. Because this is so last century, right? We're in a new century, and we're dragging the same old crap with us. It's unbelievable to me. But anyway, Natasha, good morning to you. And Anna Fulton says, brilliant. And I think she's speaking, to all of us here at this point, where this is brilliant energy. Bring it in, bring out love. Debbie had 2 eye surgeries this week. Oh my goodness, still not seeing clearly, but hope as my eyes clear, so does the world. Would love a card, please. We are going to switch right now to cards. And I think we'll do I just wonder, and you guys may wonder this too. What do our galactic brethren think of us? I mean, we know we're not alone in this universe. I mean, I've seen UFOs myself. I know we're not alone in this universe. And if that's the case, what must they think about what is going on here? I would love to ask them, how did they get through this? Because I would guess that a civilization that can travel afar must have come through some of these same things, perhaps. I would love to know. So far, I've seen Debbie TT that would like a reading. And who was it that I just saw that said that? I would like a card. Who would say that? Debbie Hedden. Oh, my 2 Debs. Deb H, Deb TT. Tom, you're getting one just because it was your birthday. And I'm going to maybe J-Lo or Amy, one of you guys out there that are so good at keeping track of things, can keep track of people who want readings. Right now I have Debbie Tibbetts, Tumiel, Debbie Hedden, and Tom. And I know there are going to be more. So Amy, I see you saying that. Amy and J-Lo. Oh, I'm throwing my pen. Okay. All right. So Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel, you are the first. Ooh, and this one doesn't want to go back. The card for you is 88. I have to go back to Zoom here, guys. So hold on 1 minute. I'm not going to see your comments for a minute. I want to make sure we can see these cards. This is your card, Balanced Relationships, the Pleiades, and card 88, Look at that heart connection, those eights right there. 8-8, heart, spirit united with matter. If we put it on the side, heart to heart, reflections of one another in the mirror. Gotta love that. So we have the energy of the Pleiades, which represents the future. And trust me when I say I've not worked with these cards, so I do not know what these mean. So I'm going to read the whole card. It might take us a little longer today, but I'm cool with that if you are. So, card 88, Pleiades. The challenges in human relationships happen from expectation. We expect our partners to become who we want them to be, rather than allowing them to be who they are naturally. This card suggests that it's time to take an honest look at the relationships in your life and your expectations. Can you be 100% present as a friend, family member, or partner without expectation? Or if expectation is placed on you, can you ignore that pressure and be your natural self anyway? This card points to a karmic pattern ready to be released, and this future Pleiadian energy can assist you. Here is commentary. Now, from what I understand, the commentary was channeled material that was brought in by the woman Lissa Royal Holt, who is the creatrix of this card deck. All right, the commentary is, this card is connected to an evolved time stream of the Pleiadian civilization in which interpersonal relationships are fully balanced. On Earth, humans use relationships as their classroom in which they learn their toughest of lessons. Relationships are also used as a way to balance karma, but this means that relationships on Earth often contain a lot of pain and suffering. This is mostly because humans don't feel complete. They have expectations that their spouse, family member, or friend will fulfill a need that they are not filling for themselves. In the new paradigm, that type of relationship cannot sustain itself because the human is acting from a place of need or lack rather than wholeness or joy. Evaluate the relationships in your life. Are they fully balanced in joy? In the Course in Miracles, relationships that are based on this are called conditional, not whole relationships. So this is where we are needing to really work through to true love. Or are they based on need, loneliness, low self-worth, or any other issue that needs to be addressed within yourself before you can truly have a healthy relationship? It is time for serious self-evaluation. Look at the other cards for any further clues about this. Well, we didn't draw other cards, but because we're all here together, we're all getting this message. This may be Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel's card, but we are all getting this energy. And so will Debbie receive from all of the other cards pulled. And this card is acknowledging a positive shift in the relationships in your life. This card requires you to be very honest in your self-evaluation. If you see things that need to change, don't feel badly about it, but be grateful for the self-awareness that will help you make these changes. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. So again, balanced relationships. Okay, Debbie Hedden, your card. And today, unless somebody states that they want something other, this is the deck we're going to be using. And I still have my other decks, so I can do that. But since this is new, I thought we'd try this out. So far, so good, right? Debbie Hedden, Energy Transmission, card number 10, Arcturus, and it's in a parallel timeline. Kind of looks like twins there. And you're a Gemini, twins. Arcturus. Okay, so let's read what that's about. Card number 10. 10, 10, 10. Okay. So Arcturus energy has guided humanity since its very early inception, but its guidance is subtle. It often guides through gentle energy transmission. Often this energy transmission comes through the healing arts, such as Reiki and other forms of hands-on healing. Because Arcturus's polarities are totally balanced, it usually circumvents the mind when working with humans. If you pulled this card, then an Arcturus energy wishes to work through you. In a quiet space, open your palms and focus on the energy sensations there. Ask for a transmission. This energy is familiar to you from ancient times. Here's the commentary. Because the Arcturan energy is so pure in essence and so connected to our true state of being, it can assist us on the earth plane in many ways. It is often channeled through hands-on healing techniques and, without words, is transmitted from one human to another through love and touch. Again, this is one reason why it is such a profound component of midwifery. It is often the first energy channeled by new channels. Healing practitioners often get this card in their readings as a validation of their art. If you have received this card in your reading, again, it is important to look at the peripheral circumstances to which it can be applied. It may be acknowledging your healing abilities or suggesting that you work on them more. It may be telling you that you are the recipient of a transmission from loving Arcturus consciousness. Go deep within to find what it is telling you. It could also be referring to channeling abilities that you have that can be expressed in many ways. In meditation, see if you can open yourself to receiving this transmission and know that the transmission can come in words or through simple, pure, loving energy. Perfect for you, Debbie Hedden. Perfect. I can see these cards are going to be as special as any of the other decks that we use have been for us. Love it, love it. All right, Tom, because it was your birthday this week. By the way, if anybody else has a birthday, let us know. I'm going to set the intention that this card be guidance for you to receive the best blessings for your coming year. Oh my goodness. And oh, you have a story, I see. Okay, so several jumped out at me. So Tom, I may not read all three cards fully, but I can snap pictures of them and send that to you later. By the way, this deck does not have an upside down, right side up. They're all right side up. And you get stubbornness, which is Pleiades past. So maybe coming up from past lives you've had in the Pleiades. And Pleiades past, guilt. And what's new for you? Spiritual commitment, Vega for your future. Okay, so let's take a quick peek at these and see what they mean. So Tom's story for the year comes from stubbornness, guilt, letting those go, I'm guessing, and moving into spiritual commitment. Not that you haven't been already committed. I don't think that's what the meaning here is. Okay, Pleiades or Pleiades. The message relates to having a fixed idea of how things should be and trying to force reality to fit that picture. This was a strong trait in the ancient Pleiadian culture, which created many problems for their civilization. Some of us still carry this habitual pattern. Take a look at the situation you want changed. Be honest and see if you are trying to force a reality that doesn't exist in the now. Be truthful. In order to make a change, we must first fully accept and relax with the situation as it is. Only then will things change in a natural way. This card represents one of the most painful lessons of the Pleiadians from this era. When the species was young, they were very idealistic, much like teenagers of today. They had a view of how reality should be, and they sought to force this vision on others. This is often a challenge of a new species when they are young. Earth humans have this trait as well. During the dark times of Orion, the Orion people were in a lot of pain. The young Pleiadian species felt it was their duty to boldly come into the Orion system and force the empire to free its people. Oh, Lord. These Pleiadians were blind to the fact that they were creating karma for themselves and meddling in a situation that was not theirs to fix. In response, the Orions destroyed a planet in the Pleiadian system that was known to be one of its most beautiful. The Pleiadians were stunned and traumatized, but it was the experience they needed to grow up as a species and drop their arrogance from their Lyran forefathers. They left that planet a lifeless shell floating in space to always remind them of their own ignorance. If this card comes up in your reading, look at the surrounding cards, which were guilt and spiritual commitment. It may be about a connection that you have to this time in Pleiadian history, or it may simply be a warning about becoming attached to your beliefs about how things should be in reality and a stubborn drive to change them according to what you feel is right. Whoa. Okay. So now let's look at 41, guilt from a Pleiadian past. In the ancient days, well-intentioned actions by Pleiadians ended up causing a whole planet to be destroyed. Since that time, they have held a tremendous amount of grief and guilt as a species. They have healed a lot since then, but many humans still carry these patterns. Look deeply at the things in your life you feel guilty about. The wisdom you have now can create compassion in your heart. Let that compassion flood the wounded part of you. Let the love from the universe fill the part of you where the guilt still lives. Let it go. All is forgiven by the universe. Now you must forgive yourself. And finally, card 72, which was spiritual commitment, Vega. So this holds your future. Okay. In modern times, very often we only make a spiritual commitment when we are in pain. When the pain goes away, we become busy with the distractions of life and no longer remember our commitment. The Vegans never lost their spiritual commitment and wove them into their everyday lives in so many enriching ways. This card asks you to look honestly at your spiritual commitments. How can you strengthen them no matter whether you are feeling pain or joy? Go deep within and find the longing to be one with the universe. Remember that longing, and your commitment can begin there. The text for this card acknowledges the immense self-discipline of the Vegan mystics of ancient times. Through their dedication and spiritual practices, they gave many gifts to their descendants, including the mystical schools of Earth. This card points to the truth that spiritual evolution cannot take place without a commitment. This may be a commitment to a specific practice, such as yoga or meditation, or it may mean a commitment to becoming the clearest and most balanced human being you can become and taking actions needed to do so. If this card came up in your reading, take a look at the surrounding cards, the guilt and the stubbornness, in your case, Tom, and your life circumstances for more clues. Most likely, this card is reminding you to stay focused and committed on your spiritual path, even when it is not convenient or enjoyable to do so. Those are the times when growth is the most pronounced. Sometimes people don't know what kind of practice to commit to. Know that the type of practice is less important than simply making the commitment, as long as the practice isn't a comfortable distraction instead of an authentic path that helps you see yourself clearly. Taking this time to connect with your inner self through whatever practice suits you is one of the most important gifts you can give to yourself and the planet. Woohoo! God, you feel the power in that one, Tom? I do. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, going back really quickly here. The next card coming up will be for Amy. And Anna Fulton, I'm a Gemini rising and had twins. Wow. 17 months ago, just for a side note. That's why I love the 88 too. They were born on 1/9/19. I'm an Aquarius, super obsessed with the numbers. Love it. Okay, so here, Amy, this is for you. There's like 102 cards in this deck, by the way. It's a big, big deck. And Amy, for you, you get change. Number 3, Andromeda. Change, Andromeda, and a parallel life that this might relate to. So number 3. Andromeda. In physical reality, change is the only constant. We spend so much time and energy trying to keep things the same that we miss the profound experience that change brings. Andromedans live in a very unusual reality paradigm, that of constant change. The change is so dramatic that the only way to orient yourself in reality is to have a strong inner compass based on consciousness. You have pulled this card because either you have a strong connection with Andromedans, you love change, or you need to connect with Andromedan energy and let go of the fear of change. This is your next lesson. And it may seem odd that the energy of a galaxy outside of ours is being utilized in this deck. The reason for this is that you can see yourself more clearly when there is a contrasting idea that can serve as a comparison. The energy of the Andromedan galaxy provides this contrast to help us see ourselves more clearly. Within the template for experience in our reality lies the issue of polarity. This is a primary theme we must explore in our way back to wholeness. In addition, we have a tendency to like things to stay the same so that we can feel safe and secure. This is a part of our nature and is based on ego need. And until we transcend that need, we will always stay stuck. Interesting. Living in an Andromedan reality requires us to create an anchor to reality in our own consciousness rather than in the outside world. This is an important concept that actually has to do with how humans will eventually master space travel. It is also profoundly connected to spiritual awakening. Thus, Andromedans act as masters and guides for our evolution, teaching us to move from polarity and the fear of change to integration and the embracing of changing nature of reality. If this card appears in your spread, look closely at your relationship to change. Are you addicted to it or do you fear it? Perhaps it is time to forge a new relationship with one of the only constants of life, change. Wow, 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 wow. I love how these cards seem to be very profound and very all-encompassing, something that all of us can take heed from. All right, J-Lo, you are next, my friend. And see what you get here in this. J-Lo gets Sirius, calling our parts home. And this is a card based in the future, calling our parts home. 92, which is an 11. Okay. Calling our parts home. When we connect with the future Sirius energy, it acts as a force that nudges us toward the integration of all of our parts, the shadow and the light. If you've had lifetimes of deep polarity and struggle, this Sirius energy can provide a profound healing. If you allow yourself to embrace all parts of you, even those you don't want to see, take a quiet moment and visualize the star Sirius. With each inhale, breathe in its energy. With each exhale, release old, separated parts of you into the light of Sirius. In doing so, you call all parts of you home. This card accesses energy from the Sirian era after they became an awakened species and transcended to a non-physical fifth density state. The Sirians from this era are a great model for humans, showing how a physical species can transcend the challenges of being immature, become awakened, transcend physical existence, and then serve as guides for other beings. The Sirians from this era are devoted to serving humans and to other species as they too experience planetary awakening. In order for this awakening to happen, individuals and the planetary consciousness as a whole must begin a process of integrating the aspects that were never allowed to be embraced, the shadow as well as the light. In that way, this card is a very healing card. If it shows up in your reading, there may be many messages. It could be that a Sirian being is working directly with you to assist your growth, and this being could strongly have the potential of being a future self for you. The strongest message, however, is that it is time for you to begin to embrace the parts of yourself that you always wished to keep separate, the parts of you that you cannot love. All of these parts must now be embraced. When they are, your full being will come home. This is a first step on the path of awakening. Wow, such a beautiful card. It also reminds me that in the full moon lunar eclipse, the square to Mars and the opposite point being in Virgo, the open end in Virgo, it reminds me that Virgo is often a sign of wholeness. And as a few years back when Jupiter was moving through Virgo, we were calling all of these empty parts, or the parts that we pushed away that we didn't want to see, we were calling them all back to us. So I see that card as a validation that that's what, is a message for you, J-Lo, but also one for all of us as we are calling all of our parts back to us, back home. Okay, now I think Angela would like a card. Angela. And I can't see if anybody else. Everybody's reacting wonderfully to these cards. I love that. Anna, I wonder if that is why I cry in the movie Avatar when the military blew up their planet. Pleiadian freaking memories. No kidding. That's a part I cry at too. I mean, because I think it hits so close to home. because it hits so close to the things that we are about to do on this planet, or the, yeah. Okay, so Angela, this is for you. This deck gets hard to handle. Thankfully, the cards are smaller because there's so many of them. Angela, you get Atlantean era, card 48, Earth of the Past. Interesting. Let me go back to Zoom here so I can make sure you're seeing this. The Atlantean era, Earth past. Wow, there's something about that card that holds meaning for me as well. Okay, Angela. This era, spanning approximately the past 13,000 years, represents the masculine principle in a planetary cycle. This cycle is often represented by polarity, war, ignorance, and confusion about spiritual identity. It is a time of darkness and sleep. Humanity is moving out of this cycle now, and we are seeing the old ways crumbling. Do not be discouraged by what you see around you. Consider it a sign that humanity is awakening again. You have had many significant lives in this era and are releasing karmic patterns that you've held for a very long time. Continue your spiritual work. Free yourself. Many have called Atlantis a continent, but we refer to it in this deck as an era, specifically an era of Earth's past that took place within the past 13,000 years. The Atlantean era was one of high polarity, mentality, and a movement away from the connection with spirit and with nature. Many may see the Atlantean era as one of great scientific advancement, but its qualities are more reflective of the emphasis on one polarity, the masculine, in parentheses, more than the other, the feminine. During this Atlantean era, the Orion energy brought to Earth is being healed, but sometimes this takes the form of tremendous conflict. Earth is currently at a very important point in its development, the time when the Orion drama is healing and an integration of polarities is occurring. If this card comes up in your reading, it could mean many things. It may refer to specific lives you lived in the Atlantean era in which polarity was a theme, but it could also have a more personal meaning. It may also refer to the integration of your own inner polarities. This card asks you to examine your own life and beliefs. Do you feel more comfortable with one polarity more than the other? Ultimately, our spiritual evolution depends on our ability to integrate these internal polarities as a first priority. Only then do we see the external polarities healing as a result. Look at the other cards to add dimension as to how this card fits into the whole message of your reading. Since we didn't draw other cards for you, Angela, I think it's like in the context of all the cards that we've pulled for everybody today. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, guys. So I'm getting spacey here. I need water. And as much as I would love to stay here all day and do card readings, I can't. So I'm sorry if I don't have time for anybody else's cards, but we'll have access to these cards again, right? It's not like they're going away, and we'll get some of these deep messages. So for my part, I wish you all blessings and peace and serenity, and may the conflict, the people involved in confrontations and conflict, find peace, and may everybody come to their senses during this weekend. It's certainly possible. And remember, I'm gone tomorrow through Thursday of next week. I will keep in contact as much as I can. Look to the Facebook page, Living Astrology Facebook page, because likely I won't do videos, but I'll probably do some messages there. Much love to all of you. Take care. Have a good weekend. Make it a good weekend. And I will see you next week. Take care. Bye.